Today we're turning up the heat because we have the internet's resident sexpert in the house.
Sex is empowering as long as there are certain ingredients.
What's the most ridiculous dating or sex rule that you've heard?
Oh my God, there's so many. Would you date someone that wants you to, let's see, like poop on their chest?
Pooping on the chest is a hard line. I can kind of see like how people would enjoy a golden shower. I don't think I personally would be able to do it.
I 100% think that dating apps should show sexual compatibility.
What do you think the sexiest first date move that isn't touching?
First round's on me.
Yeah, baby. Welcome back to First Rounds on Me, a First Rounds on Media production. Today we're turning up the heat because we have the internet's resident sexpert in the house, the one and only Dr. Tara. She's the fearless, no-filter voice behind LuvBites Podcast, co-host of Loveline, and author of How Do You Like It? The Ultimate Guide to Getting What You Want, in parentheses, in bed. So we're asking all the questions you really want answered. The worst sex advice still haunting the internet, the biggest intimacy killers on dating apps, and red flags that scream run in the bedroom. And of course, we need to settle the age-old debate, can bad sex ever be fixed? We're also diving into first date chemistry, the truth behind body count convos, and the one thing that instantly makes someone unforgettable in bed. Dr. Tara.
Wow.
Thank you so much for being here today.
What an introduction. I would say that's an orgasmic introduction.
From you, that is high compliment. From you, that is high compliment.
Whoever wrote that, you get a trophy.
I wrote it.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
Also at the same time, it's like I used to struggle with the intro so much, but now I feel like I've gotten to a flow. Plus, we just had a really lovely 20-minute conversation, so I feel like we're very comfortable with each other now, and it makes it better. I want to dive straight into it. So your book, How Do You Like It? The Ultimate Guide to Getting What You Want in Bed.
It's actually coming out later this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what did I think it was already out?
Well, because the pre-sale started.
Okay, can we talk about it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Amazing. I was about to say, it's all about getting what you want in bed.
Yes.
So what's the real question I want to know from you is what's the biggest reason people don't get what they want in bed?
Is they don't know what they want in bed truly, and they don't know how to communicate what they want in bed.
Why do you think people don't know what they want in bed?
Poor sex education, puritanical perspectives in our cultures, and just overall the taboo-ness of having open-minded conversations about sex. If you're not getting taught anywhere, there's no education, not a talk from your parents because it's taboo, and no actual educational talk from your peers or someone older, then where do you learn from? You usually learn from porn. And in research we found that adolescents learn about sex and sexual scripts from porn and the media. So if you watch a TV show or a movie, that's how adolescents subconsciously learn how sex should go. But in movies back in the days, I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm 36, and so back in the days,
same age.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So when we were young, the movies never show female pleasure per se, right? Movies always show male pleasure, a really intense, get together and a lot of kissing, and then he just inserts, right? And that's not.
There's no foreplay whatsoever.
No.
Do you think it's a male problem or both? Male-female problem?
What is?
Porn and what we see on movies.
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Because
both.
as a guy, I relate to this very, very well.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense to me. And it's what is the question we should, or what are the things we should teach children as they start to have sex that helps them and helps them enjoy it?
Yeah. So actually, there's a whole framework around a concept called family sex communication. And if you guys are having one soon, you won't be talking about sex when they're a baby, but
For a while now, but yeah.
But I can give a quick recap of what research have found within this framework to be the most successful and effective in talking to children about sex is, first off, when they're when they're toddlers and children, so let's say up to 6 years old, these are creatures or younglings that are curious. A lot of them are very tactile. A lot of them like to touch. Sometimes they touch themselves. Sometimes they touch their genitals. Making sure that the parents are not slapping their hand out of whatever they're doing or scolding at them. Don't do that. That's bad.
Acting like it's taboo or it's bad. Yeah.
Exactly. Because what that does, it immediately, as these younglings are growing and developing their brain, it's immediately embedded in their brain, instilled in their brain that it is not okay to do this, and you should feel anxious when you're an adult for touching touching your penis.
Wow.
So
What if you're a 34-year-old man that continues to touch his penis all day?
that's okay, as long as it's not outside. I
So I
mean,
have an excuse.
if you're home,
I'm home, yeah.
yeah, if you're home, you work from home, you can touch your penis, but don't touch your penis outside.
It's pretty
Fair.
pretty standard rule.
That's
Yeah.
like the first off is like for children, you never want to like scold at them or hit them for doing something that they like innocently do. Like they don't know what it means. But then when it comes to the age of sexual debut, which is another term for losing your virginity, when it's time for sexual debut, which is typically between, and nowadays is younger too because of porn.
Yeah.
Typically it's between 13.
13?
Yes. Children are exposed to porn at 11.
But how?
Shut the fuck up, Brie.
Why?
Either from like older siblings or either from peers at school. Because
Access to the
nowadays
internet,
kids like
yeah.
at 10 or 11, they have cell phones. Like they have smartphones. They have, they sometimes randomly search like Twitter to find like maybe games, like video games tricks. But then there's a lot of porn that use video games terms like Pokemon.
What does Pokemon use?
Well, I mean, there's sometimes some of these like porn will like use these terms so that like people can accidentally like click on them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so there's many different ways children get exposed to porn, and like we found in research, the majority of children are exposed to the idea or actual porn at 11, and the sexual debut is typically around 13 to 16. So if we're talking to kids around 13, I would say talking about the fact that sex isn't something bad, that sex is empowering as long as there are certain ingredients. Like one, it's consensual. Both of you really, really want to do it. Two, there's some sort of love or emotional connection or feeling, right? There needs to be some sort of feeling. We don't want 13-year-old to have a bunch of casual sex,
No.
right? So some sort of feeling and connection or love. And then third, there needs to be a full understanding of sexual health, like what it means to have certain, sexual health issues, what it means to be safe, and why it's important to be safe, and not just like, if you get pregnant, like, you're going to get kicked out, or, if you have sex before you get married, it's like, it's a sin, right? Like these are...
God hates you for it, like all these things.
Do we think that, is it okay to tell children to have sex at 13?
Not to tell them
But I'm
to have
saying,
sex at
is
13,
it-
but
if
to
they do
tell them
it-
to be safe when they do.
Okay.
Because they do. With or without your permission.
Yeah, so it's more so like having, and I think that this is something that is a very interesting topic to talk about, because there are that school of thought that go, well, we shouldn't be having conversations with children about sex in general. But to your point, they're going to be having sex regardless, right? And we know this. We know statistically this is happening.
They do it. Yeah.
They're going to do
as
it.
a parent, put yourself in the parent's shoes. If you find out your 13-year-old has sex, there's a make or break moment where you could do what you say and kind of talk to them kindly about it, or do we say, well, don't...
You're grounded.
I'm trying to be
And make
devil's
them
advocate.
feel like sex is shameful.
Yeah, like if my 13-year-old had sex, I don't know if I'd be strong enough to say, okay, I know you're going to do it, but here's how you're going to do it.
I think it's more so ideally like when you're 13, when your child hits 13, you sit down and go, hey, listen, like there is, if they're not privy to the, the fact that there is sex or they are having sex at that point, they haven't, I like the sexual debut. That's kind of like a really fun way of saying
Isn't
losing your
it?
virginity.
Yeah, it's so great.
But when you sit there and you say to them, hey, listen, like there is this thing, right? This beautiful thing that typically happens between people who love each other, that there's connection, all these kind of things. When and if you I, as your parent, would really hope that you would wait until you were a little bit older for this to happen.
Yes.
But I do want to inform you about all the things that come along with this really beautiful thing. There's sexual health. There's all of these kind of things. And I think that people, because of the way in which we were raised, people are like, oh, well, if you talk to children about it, they're just automatically going to do it and they're going to do it wrong and it's going to fuck everything up. It's more so going, this is a part of life. This is something that you're going to experience sooner rather than later. So I would much rather have a conversation with you a little bit earlier so that you're aware of like what's going on versus learning it from porn versus learning it from their friends who are like, oh, you just stick it in there.
Yeah, I think it's a very important and interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And I think the only pushback I have, specifically with 13-year-olds, is no matter how safe you are, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's that small % chance that you can get somebody pregnant or you can get pregnant. And at 13, I just think that that's catastrophic to someone's life. So that's my only pushback.
Yeah,
And
but
maybe
if
I'm
they
old
do it
school.
anyways,
True, yeah.
They're gonna.
then,
they're
yeah,
hard-
it's
the
either
tough.
with or without your support. They don't care.
The likelihood
yeah.
of them doing it with like getting someone pregnant or getting an STD without education is probably double, triple,
So much
quadruple
higher, yeah.
higher than you having a conversation with them about it and then them understanding like what a condom does, why they should have safe sex, why they shouldn't have casual sex at 13.
Actually, research found that areas in the United States where they adopt abstinence-only education have the highest
rate of STDs.
unplanned,
Oh, really?
unplanned pregnancies.
Oh.
So it's so much better that parents are open. There's this method called the proactive approach rather than the one way it's called the dialogue approach. So the dialogue approach means that you ask them first, like, what do they think about it? What have they heard about it? Are people at school talking about it? And learn more from them. What do they already know? Because a lot of times they do know. So having a dialogue allows your children to feel like, okay, this is a safe person that I can go to have a conversation with, to share if something does happen or to share if something happens with their friends.
There's
And
feeling
it's
shame
so,
around
so
it.
important to be that person and not be like this authoritative figure all the time where they feel scared to share anything with you and therefore don't share anything with you. And that's like a much bigger problem.
Well, that's when you get like 13-year-olds hiding pregnancies.
Yeah.
Or like doing something that's really
or go get
gnarly.
an abortion in like Mexico.
Back alley situation. That's
Yeah.
where real danger comes into play. I think
Yeah.
the open communication across the board with any child is
Yeah.
just vitally important.
It all makes sense to me too, though, because now that you think about it, you're a freshman in high school at what, 14 years old?
Yeah.
And that's when you start to hear your
yeah.
friends having sex. And then
Yeah.
you're like, at least this was my experience. You're like, okay, I have 4 years to lose my virginity.
Yeah.
Like that's the timeline.
Yeah.
I didn't lose my virginity until I was 17.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But as you get
Late
to be like
bloomer
a
in
junior or
today's
senior,
standards.
as you get to be a junior or senior, you do start to feel that internal pressure of, okay, all my friends are starting to do this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's such an interesting conversation because it makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense what you're saying.
Totally. And when we were kids, like, yes, people were starting to talk about it and sharing about it in high school. But nowadays, with cell phones and social media, they share about it in middle school.
Yeah, it's fucking wild.
Yeah.
All right, I want to look to some of the internet's most kind of debated sex and dating
All right.
topics, all right? So there is this constant conversation around body count, right? And particularly, I would say it's like praised in men, the body count, it's shamed in women. Do you think it's a valid conversation to have, like, as you're stepping into a new relationship, or do you think it's outdated?
I think it's outdated and honestly misogynistic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think it's misogynistic because whenever there is a concept that exists where like, oh, it's so significantly better for men and like terrible, terrible, deadly for women, then that's misogynistic. Like if you say, you know, this man has had sex with 20 women, this woman has had sex with 20 men, like what's the difference? Like if the woman is being safe, if the man is being safe, both of them have had consensual, pleasurable sexual experiences. If anything, like both people have really good experience to then become competent, skilled lovers now that you're dating them.
Yeah, that would.
I would never date a virgin. Because I'm like, you've never had sex? Like, you're not going inside my vagina. Like, you don't know how to fuck.
You don't know how to work this area, so therefore I'm not letting you
Exactly.
near.
I would only have sex with men that have had lots of sex.
Is that question that you ask? Like, do you think that people should be
No.
asking what
I don't think
people's
people
body
should
count
be
is?
asking because I think it has nothing to do with it now. Like, if we're taking the mindfulness approach of dating and like what matters is now, the present, and this experience that we're co-creating and co-sharing, then why does it matter that like this person has had sex 100 times, 200 times, right?
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. What is one thing that men think is a turn on, but actually isn't?
Because there's so many.
Please help me.
I think, okay, for like people in relationships, one thing that men think is a turn on, but like women don't actually like it is when they're working or really intense into like a meeting or like if they're spending, giving a lot of attention to do something like cooking or anything like that. And they come in to try to like love touch you. Like, you know, try to like, yeah, like try to like grab you or like, you know, try to like kind of caress your pussy or like listen, bro.
I got fucking things to do, all right?
Yeah, literally. I think there is a masculinity and femininity in each person, men and women. And for women, when we're working and we're like closing deals and doing this and that, like we're in masculine energy. Like we're trying to get shit done, trying to be assertive, proactive, like, you know, and be effective as like a leader or whatever you do. It is not a space for sensual touching in our head. But when we switch, right, when we're ready to be feminine and let go and surrender and let you kind of lead us, then yes, touch me, right? Like,
Yeah.
So is that why it's the opposite when men are working, where they like when their partner comes and starts to touch them because we're in our masculine when we're working?
testosterone, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when you're
Interesting.
working and you're doing great things and you're, you know, just crushing it, like testosterone is higher and you're like, like I want to fuck.
What's the most ridiculous dating or sex rule that you've heard that people still swear by, and why is it nonsense?
Oh my God, there's so many.
The first one that pops to your mind.
The first one that pops into my mind is I don't have sex until the fifth date. The fifth date rule. I hear it
So what
many
is
times.
what is your perspective on when should you have sex when you first start dating somebody?
My perspective is there are two school of thoughts. Okay, the first school of thought is the sexual restraint model. And if you subscribe to that sexual restraint model, you want to wait until you build emotional connection before you have a sexual interaction with this person, because then it will be more satisfying and fulfilling. If you subscribe to the sexual compatibility model, like if that's your orientation, then you would want to have sex either like at the end of the first date or as soon as possible, because for you, sex is really important and you want to rule that out right away if this person is sexually compatible with me. And so it depends on which school of thought you subscribe to and your date. Because if you subscribe to sexual restraint model, but your date subscribes to sexual compatibility model and tries to initiate sex with you faster than you would like, it's not their fault. It's not anyone's fault. It's you're different and maybe you shouldn't be together because you value sex differently.
Yeah.
Can it be seen as a contradiction of misogyny when if a guy, and I'm generalizing here, when a guy wants to sleep on the first date, maybe sometimes he's doing it with bad intentions, but maybe he's like, I just want to see if we're compatible because if we are, then I'm going to keep pursuing this.
Yeah. I think it's completely fine in 2025 for everybody to have sex on a first date.
I agree.
And, you know, if there are men that are taught by certain male influencers that like women need to be a certain way, women need to be submissive, and if a woman have sex with you on a first date, like dumb her ass, like she's not worth pursuing. She's
not like a high quality woman. She's not a high value woman.
High value.
If she does or doesn't.
If she does. Yeah, it's just all bullshit. Because ultimately, if you really look at human behavior, sex is a love language. And whether it's a man or a woman, it can be anybody's love language. And it definitely is mine. Like my now husband and I had sex on our first date. And I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't have waited till the fifth date. I wouldn't wait like 3 months because I think these rules are just silly because I don't subscribe to that model.
We had sex on our second date, but I think it was more so like that delayed sexual gratification where we both really wanted to do it the first time. It was kind of like edging in a way. You're like, all right, I'm just going to wait until the next
I
one.
love that. Yeah. But again, like second date, like for a lot of people, they still feel like that's too fast. Even though I think it's honestly the perfect time. If you feel like the first date was like maybe the context wasn't right, maybe you're out like and about different places, but second date is kind of like okay, we had a first date, I know I want to fuck this person. Like, let's go.
All right, speaking of first dates, what do you think the sexiest first date move that isn't touching?
First round's on me.
Yeah, baby. Damn.
I think generosity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think generosity and immediacy. So like nonverbals, using your body language. And generosity is a huge love language that's not necessarily like a part of the 5 love languages that people talk about, but it is really a huge attractive trait for people to have, regardless of like men or women. because in traditional dating script, it's like a man will like take a woman out on a date and like he will say like first round on me or like I'll take you out to dinner. But there are various ways for a woman to be generous as well. Like if it's not monetary, it could be monetary. It could be like second rounds on me.
Yeah.
But it could also be in other ways, like actively listening,
Yeah.
actively asking questions, providing validation, providing affirmation. Like there's so many other ways to be generous that doesn't involve money.
Do you think when a man is forward setting a plan, even for a first date where he says, hey, we're going here at this time, be ready, that's a turn on? And what's your perspective on that?
It's a huge turn on for most women. And I say most because there are like a minority group of women that probably dislike that because they want to like take part of like planning or wanting to like don't make a decision for me, right? Like there are some people like that, but I would say majority, like 95% of women love that.
Do you think it shows confidence where it's like, hey, I'm just going to take the lead here because I'm confident enough to, and if it doesn't work, we'll figure it out?
Yeah, exactly. Confidence and masculinity.
I think it showed that really beautiful side of masculinity that's like self-assured.
Yeah.
And that
masculinity is all about leadership, all about being assertive, all about being organized. So if you're a leader in the relationship, that's what you would do first.
Agreed. All right, I want to talk about dating apps because we were just talking kind of like about our dating app and stuff. So we've been having a lot of conversations lately about rating systems on dating apps, right? So almost kind of like not like stepping into the whole Black Mirror like rating system, but more so like what a post-date rating system. This is what we talked about in the last couple of podcasts. But I want to get your perspective on kind of two things. So do you think that people should be open about their sexual preferences on a dating app profile, or is that kind of like an after you meet conversation? And do you think a sexual compatibility feature would be an interesting add to an app, or is it even quantifiable?
It is quantifiable. I've worked on it for so long. Actually, a part of my book is about sexual compatibility, and I 100% think that dating apps should show sexual compatibility, or at least their sexual profile, which is a concept that I came up with that like is talked about in the book. But sexual profile is basically explaining who you are as a sexual being. And it is a deal breaker if you are extremely like opposite in your sexual profile. And this sexual profile assessment or quiz, it was created in the same manner that Myers-Briggs personality test was created.
Really?
So your answers, you will get acronyms, right? Like I'm ENFJ on Myers-Briggs. Do you know what yours is?
I can't remember exactly what it is now.
Definitely an E, right? An extrovert.
I think so, yeah.
But yeah, I'm ENFJ. But so sexual profile will offer the same thing. So on sexual profile, I am DMNK or DMKA.
What does that mean? Or do we have to wait and find out?
Dynamic. Well, I can briefly talk about mine. It's dynamic, kinky, DKMA. Dynamic, kinky, monogamous, and well, I'm monogamish. Dynamic, kinky, monogamish, and animalistic. So it explains like the different aspects of a person's sexuality. And if you're extremely different and if you have other kinky sexual preferences, then maybe you don't belong together. If the other person is like extremely against unconventional and kinky sexual acts.
That's so fascinating. All right.
Yeah.
Something to think about really with the app.
Yeah, like would you date someone that wants you to, let's see, like poop on their chest?
Pooping on the chest is a hard line. I've always said that anything to do with poop, really, like
and to not kink shame, by the way. This is not kink shame, this is preference, like personal
This is just my own
preference,
personal preference. I can't get down, there's nothing sexual about bodily function for me.
Right.
In any way, shape or form.
No pee.
I can kind of see like how people would enjoy a golden shower. I don't think I personally would be able to do it. I'd be willing to do it to somebody else, but I don't think I would gain any like sexual pleasure out of it, put it that way.
Yeah.
Definitely not kink shaming me in any way, shape or form. But yeah, if I'd known that was like someone's kink, I'd probably be like, hey, I want you to be fulfilled in your sexual life, and I know for a fact that I'm not going to be comfortable with that.
You can't offer.
So maybe you should go and find somebody else that wants to poop on your chest.
Didn't we fill it out?
We did. We filled out. Well, I was about to say we filled out the thing on your website.
So how do we get the answer to that?
You get an email.
Yeah.
And with the answer of what we are?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was dynamic and kinky.
You were dynamic.
Okay.
So why were you just two?
Ooh, dynamic and kinky.
Why were you just two?
There should be 2 other ones too, but maybe you don't remember.
Maybe I can't remember.
Hold on, I want to see what I am.
Flexible or monogamous.
I was monogamous.
Monogamous. And then animalistic or gentle.
I think I was I think I was the same as you.
Animalistic.
Yeah, I think I was like
Wait,
except I'm straight
go.
monogamous. Like I really value having like one partner at a
Yes,
time. That's like
yeah.
that's a really important
Okay,
value to
wait.
me.
Yeah.
So
See, that's so
check out our
important because if
results.
the other person is flexible,
Mm.
that means like they can be into anything, right? They can.
I
be
had
into
been flexible
open
in my
or-
like
Yeah.
in my past kind of
Yeah.
lives, and then when I got married, then or even like when I got with him, I was like, I want to dedicate all of my life, my sexual energy, everything towards one person.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you're what? Dynamic and kinky?
Kinky, traditional, also monogamous, and animalistic.
Okay, so mine is this. Do I have to read this to get the numbers?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm consistent.
Oh, okay. So that's a difference, but it is not like a make or break one.
Okay. Ooh, let's make a breaks here. Whoa. And
High stakes, bro.
animalistic,
Oh, nice. So that's the same.
We,
Okay.
Yeah, you guys are wild. Like,
monogamous,
yeah, the same.
okay, and traditional.
oh,
Interesting.
so I'm kinky and you're traditional.
Yeah. So that's the two differences are your dynamic, your consistent,
Mm-hmm.
and then your what was the other one? Kinky and your traditional.
Hannah is way more experienced and
I think I had a lot more varying sexual experiences.
Yes,
if that makes
yes,
sense. You know what I mean? Like I'd love to threesome. Like
Yeah.
with
yeah.
past boyfriends, and I loved that kind of just like exploring and doing like weird shit just to see if I liked it.
Yeah.
And that's
I'm
why I
a
was-
fan of like trying everything once.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
how I
just
kind of
to
viewed it.
see.
I kind of
See-
said it. I was like, I'll try everything 3 times because I feel like the first time I may not like it. And then
See, for me, I think from our previous conversation,
Yeah.
as a young guy who watched a lot of porn and like,
Yeah.
saw how sex was supposed to be, in my adulthood, I was pretty much a one-night stand kind of guy,
Mm-hmm.
which I regret because I didn't really create an emotional connection, which
Mhm.
now that I know that's really important to sex.
Mhm.
So whenever I figured out what worked in that night, I was like, okay, I just got to know that this works. So then
That's why you're a consistent lover.
so that's sprinkled into my marriage where I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
now, I'm more relaxed and it's
Yeah.
easier, but I'm still so fixated on, okay, if it works, just stick with it because that's your bread and butter.
yeah. Well, maybe, tonight when you get back to New York, you put a leash on her and
Okay.
pull her around and see if she
But
likes
I
it.
feel like there's even been things that we have like experimented with. And Jackie, my mother-in-law, if you're watching this, please close your ears. But if there have been,
Hi, Jackie.
there are things that we have like experimented with.
So
Where
weird.
you're like, oh wow, I actually really liked that.
No, yeah, I think it
And
goes
stepped
back
outside
to,
of the
Yeah.
quote unquote comfort zone.
I
like-
think it goes back to the communication and the emotional connection because
Yes.
knowing that, I do enjoy these things and she's going to show me that I enjoy them. It's
Yeah.
I think
rewarding.
also think that like that we can walk down like a couple like different paths and there's no shame, there's no judgment. Like if you want to try something out that we may not like, but there's always that open door of like giving it a go. And I think that's the most important, particularly within like a
Yeah.
healthy marriage, a healthy relationship in general.
Yeah. If you want to get pegged, you get pegged.
Damn straight.
No, sometimes I think the best is when I do treat her like a porn star. I'm like, this
It's
is porn,
fun.
baby.
Yeah. It's fun.
Fun once in a while. That's the beautiful thing about sex. So it comes in so many different shapes and sizes, so many different forms.
So many. Yeah, when people are like in together for like 10 years, usually there is, so in research, we find like a 5-year hump, a 7-year hump, and a 10-year hump.
Mm.
And usually the 10-year hump is quite like catastrophic, if you will, if you don't proactively prevent it to happen. And usually it's people just being complacent and like do nothing new, try nothing else, not putting in the effort. And then by that time, 10 years later, you like have sex once every 3 months. And it's kind of like, it feels kind of like robotic and forced.
Mm.
And that's because they did not put in the work.
Mm.
Like it's a marriage or a long-term relationship is literally your second job.
It is.
It's a second job. You have to treat it like a second job. You have to put in the effort. You have to put in on your calendar. Like if you use Google Calendar, put on your Google Calendar, like here's when we're going to explore new things on sex. Here's when we're going to have sex. Here's where I'm just going to give him a blowjob.
Is that
Here's what-
is that a bad thing? Because
No, it's the best thing ever.
I used to, well, I don't know collectively, but we used to talk about how when you schedule sex, it was a turnoff. But now that we're so
Yeah.
busy and we're married and having a kid, it makes it a little easier and exciting to say like, okay, like Wednesday night is sex night
It's
or
so
something
great.
like that.
Yeah, for long-term like successful adults, like you have to schedule it because or else you're just gonna sit around and not like do what is
And I feel like when you're so busy and you're
Yeah.
married, it's easier to find moments that aren't aligning, right? Where,
Mhm.
you know, you work all day and you come home and one person's ready to have sex and the person's like, listen, I just worked 15 hours. There's
like
no
my
way.
body is tense. I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think vice versa, right? You can be in the mood and you go and it's like, dude, I just worked out.
Yeah.
I'm not in the mood.
Yeah. So that's why I don't really I don't love the word scheduling sex. I usually just say like just schedule a connection time. And it doesn't have to be penetration. Like sometimes I'm like my mind is very like occupied because maybe I'm closing a big deal and you know haven't heard back from this person and just thinking about stuff. But I do want to honor our connection time. Like I'll give him a blowjob. It's like instead of a blowjob, I think about it as blow opportunity. It's not a job. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to give him pleasure, for us to maintain the connection, for him to like adore the fact that I put in the work and time to honor this connection time.
Mhm.
So if I don't feel like penetration or nipple play or whatever that involves me, I'll just give you a blowjob to make sure that there is still sexual connection.
What's the 5-year hump?
Is that coming up?
We're at 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Usually the 5-year hump is if people want to get a divorce, they get a divorce within the first 3 years.
Okay.
Usually.
Of marriage or of knowing each other?
Marriage.
Okay.
Because there is something about marriage
Mm.
like that is different from being together. But also because research only looked at marriages, like so I don't really have data on regular like long-term relationships. But in 5 year of marriage, usually there's let me see. There's 3 particular issues that come up. One is typically family planning, right? Because this is where people have children and or like had a baby and is now like kind of critical time. So a lot related to like family planning and like family values and how to go about like dealing with the baby. And it can be quite detrimental when couples don't have good communication because it's so stressful, like with the baby, and some people within 5 years of marriage, they have multiple babies. It can be like quite a make or break thing if you don't have healthy communication going. So first is like family planning. Second is finances. Because 5 years into the marriage, you might hit a spot where you realize like, wow, my partner isn't as ambitious as I thought. Or wow, my partner like is, you know, working all the time and having all this money, but we never get to like spend time and experience it. Or like, wow, I want my partner to become a housewife, but she really wants to work and make money. And now like we have different values. So many things can kind of come up during like that 5 years related to money, like finances. And that is also a breaking point. And of course, third, it's sex. Because sex, during 5 years, sex hits plateau for most variety of experiences. So if you look into like if you just look at a linear curve, you see a linear curve for the first 3 years, right? It's a steady upward positive relationship of linear curve. But then you kind of hit the plateau around 4 to 5 years. And then if people don't kind of have like an uptick within their 5 year period, then they kind of stay complacent and it's kind of plateaus for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, then that's when you get a divorce.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is the most informative podcast I've ever had. You studied all this and wrote all this, and this is
Yeah. So
this is amazing.
yeah, I'm a tenured professor. I don't know if you guys know.
Why? Because usually we ask people questions and like, okay, this is my perspective, and here it is, and it's kind of all over the place. But you give like really great, concrete answers. Wow.
I appreciate
Statistics behind, I think, really help
Yeah, I
people.
appreciate that. Just a little bit about me, like being a professor, doing research work, and also teaching. So I teach human sexuality and I teach quantitative research methods. So for me, like sex and statistics is like my language. And a lot of what I study is within the realm of sex and statistics. And as a professor for the last 12 years that I've taught quantitative research, I taught students a lot about relationship science. So how to like quantify different relational experiences, how to quantify like sexual compatibility. So my forte is quantifying things.
I want to throw you a curveball.
Yeah.
Paradox of choice. What are
Okay.
the analytics and what does the science say about paradox of choice?
In
Dating
And dating apps and having, we live in this digital world
yeah.
and we're so close to all these people. What does that do for us? Is it good? Is it bad?
You mean dating apps or in
Just
like social media?
Let's even use like living in a big city, for example.
Okay.
Because I see a pro and a con to it. Whereas
Yeah.
back in the day, you live in a small town, you're going to meet somebody.
Yeah.
And the con is that the first good person you meet, you kind of are in there with them.
Yeah.
But you're meeting somebody, you're getting married, but then you're maybe going to get divorced because you realize, okay, I've never really experienced anybody else.
Yeah.
On the flip side, if you live in like New York City,
Yeah.
you just wait so long because there's so many options. And then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, you know what you like, but you kind of missed out on all the people that were the good matches.
Yeah.
So I guess like, is it better to have fewer options and kind of pick the right one? Or is it better to have a lot of options and really know what you like?
It depends on what philosophy.
I know that was a lot.
Yeah, it depends on what philosophy you subscribe to because dating apps or social media or living in a big city, it's kind of like, this is a weird analogy, but it's kind of like guns.
Okay.
I mean, you're from Australia.
Yeah.
You guys don't do guns, but
we have them, but we don't love them as much as Americans.
right. It's kind of like guns because guns exist, right? And people are responsible for using it safely and in a right context. And so dating apps for me, dating apps or social media, there's so much narrative of like, oh, it's so toxic. Like people are not just on social media scrolling, doom scrolling, and there's so many options. There's so many, like so much fish in the sea, and this is distracting. To me, it's like, are you an intelligent, mindful user of anything? If you're an intelligent, mindful user of dating app, of social media, of guns, of mushrooms, of porn, psychedelics, like then you're good. So I think rather than, blaming the context of why your relationship fails or why you're unsuccessful at dating, you should blame yourself for not being, a self-assured, mindful, intelligent user of these things. When people go, I'm so burned out. I hate dating apps. I'm so burned out. I'm like, that's you, girl. Like, that's your fault.
Are you using them in the right way?
Yeah, exactly. Like, apps just exist. Like, they don't, it's, if you blame the context all the time, then like you become the victim of this thing that just exists. Like, you are the user of it. You control it. So if you want to be on it just for 30 minutes a day, you be on it for 30 minutes a day. Like, no one tells you to be on it for three hours a day.
I got two more for you because now I'm excited.
Yeah.
Okay, so with our app, we only allow you to have one match per day, which is a physical date, because we want you to really pay attention to one person at a time. And don't quote me on this, but from what I've read is the human brain could only focus on 3 to 5 new connections in life over a certain amount of time. And I think it was like a week or something. What do you think is the right amount of connections a single person can manage to focus on them appropriately?
Concurrently? Like
yeah,
at
like
the same time.
Yeah, like on an app, like a pretty woman gets
no more than 5.
50. So you're saying 5 is like what your brain can take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But if you're on the like other dating apps, right? Just because you match with these people doesn't mean that you put in the effort and care and attention the same way. Like, it's like weighted values, right? Like with this guy, like whatever, I match with him just cause, right? Like I might not respond as often. But with this other guy, I really like him. Like, oh wow, like all these things make me excited. So I'm gonna like so excited to text him and so excited to wait for him to text me back. So it's weighted values. Like it's not like everyone's the same. So just because like, let's say on this other dating app, just because you match with 50 people doesn't mean you actually are excited and pay attention to 50 people. You probably just pay attention to 5.
So, okay, so that's amazing. So if we break this down over a week, we say, okay, user X got 100 matches this week.
Yeah.
So probably 5% of those matches is that she's actually paying attention to or he's paying attention to. Wow.
Yes.
That's
There is
amazing.
no way a woman is putting care, attention, and effort into texting 20 people.
No.
No way, right?
No chance.
No way, especially if she's a successful woman. Like if she's working and like doing her thing and going to the gym and meeting friends and having like, you know, quality time with friends and family, there's no way she's texting 20 guys.
Okay, I got one more for you.
Okay.
So on our app, we only allow you to talk 24 hours before the date. So
Okay.
the reasoning that I had was we give you a little bit of time to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But it's not enough time to become pen pals or figure out a reason to not go on the date,
Mhm.
right? I think the longer we wait, we find some reason to not go. Do you think that time gap is appropriate or should it be shorter or longer?
It only takes people 30 seconds to judge another person. So 24 hours is plenty.
Even through text?
I mean, it's hyper personal, right? Because there is a profile. And is it linked to social media too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like you learn about the person within like 2 minutes.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And so if you get a chance to interact via text for 24 hours, that's plenty of time. Yeah. Like I can probably do an experiment if you want to do it together. I can probably go on it and do an experiment to see how long it takes for me to decide that I want to go on a date with this person or not. And I can educated guess that it will take me less than 30 minutes. If it's a good reciprocal conversation, like if I'm not waiting for 6 hours, then I can decide within 30
That would be
minutes.
amazing. But is this where your monogamish comes in?
What?
No, this is just pure research.
But then what? You're just not going to go on the date because you're married?
Well, I'm just gonna say like after the end of the experiment, I'm just gonna say that I'm actually doing an experiment.
That
You're
would be
actually an
amazing.
incredible person, and if I was single, I would totally go on a date with you.
That
Like
would
I'll just be
amazing.
honest.
That would be
Let's set it up,
incredible.
man.
Yeah, I feel like let's set it out. Let's do the experiment. Like I'll talk to like 10 different guys to see like how long it takes for me to go on a date with them.
I think that in of itself is like so helpful for people to see because I think people need something visual and tactile to be able to learn off of, even just to learn more about themselves and what they want. Because I wholeheartedly agree, like particularly women. I mean, I can only speak from a woman's point of view because I'm not a male, but like we make our decisions of what we like, who we like very,
Mhm.
very, very quickly. And so I've always been a big fan of the 24 hours because I think it just like
Yeah.
it allows for compatibility check, like you were just talking about, but it also doesn't allow you reasons to be able to not go on the date. It doesn't allow you to back out for like silly kind of like superficial reasons.
Mhm.
It just gives you the perfect amount of time to be able to do so.
What if they're busy that day or like out of town for the weekend? Do they
Well,
just exchange their numbers?
The 24 hours is like the 24 hours before the date. So say for instance, like I saw you and I think I was like, oh my gosh, she's so cute. And I sent you off a date request. You accepted it. The 24 hours before that date. So you've already accepted the date request, the drink time and the place. The 24 hours beforehand, that's when the chat box opens and that's when we can have a discussion with each other. So it's like the 24 hours before the date versus like the 24 hours after you match.
Okay.
Because again, that allows you to vet, okay, is there compatibility here? Is this all these kind of things?
And it
Because-
also creates like, you know, when you watch a TV show and it comes out every Sunday,
Mhm.
you're really excited.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to make it 24 hours right away
Mm-hmm.
because then you're kind of like not as excited as the date and the date's say
Mhm.
5 days away.
Mm-hmm.
I want to create a real sense of urgency and excitement of, okay, my chat
Mhm.
box is going to open in 3 days and my date's in 4 days. I can't wait to talk to this person
Mm-hmm.
and see if it's going to work. And then, okay, either yes, it's going to work or no, it's not. And I didn't want there to be a gap in between the conversation and the date because I feel like that's when it can kind of get all over the place.
Mm. And can like let's say you said you can only match one person per time.
You can only have one confirmed date per day. So at a maximum, we give you a 7-day calendar. You could have
So I
seven
can have
confirmed.
7.
You could have 7 dates, one each day.
Okay. And when do I know it's like canceled? Like
You'll get a notification.
that the
Oh.
other person canceled me?
Yeah. So say you're talking to this person in the
Yeah.
24-hour window and you're like, no way I'm meeting them. You would just cancel and then.
And they get a notification that I canceled on them, like that I don't want to pursue, like get a drink or.
Yeah. I mean, we have wording in there that makes it soft and not as
Okay.
aggressive. But
it's
yeah.
also-
You were canceled.
I think it's also just like, again, one of those things where you have the opportunity to be able to take control of your love life in that regard, right? Like
Yeah.
if you really like start talking to somebody and like visually, and again, it goes back to like kind of like visually what you see versus like what that emotional compatibility is. You might say, oh my God, that dude's so attractive. But then you start talking to him, you're like, oh, there's no banter there. There's no wit. There's no nothing. And then it's up to you to be like, okay, so perhaps this is just an online persona of him. Maybe there's maybe in person he's a lot better. Or you know what, I really don't have the time to be able to waste on this. I actually want something that I know instantaneously off the bat has that good banter, has that like good.
And the goal of the app is that people go meet in person as soon as possible.
Yes.
Yeah, and to make it as organic as possible.
Okay.
That's why the 24 hours, because you just don't want people to talk and talk and talk and talk throughout the app. We want them to, like, all of those beautiful icebreaking questions. And again, it goes back to the way him and I met, right?
Yeah.
The reason why we sat for 4 hours on our first date and the waitress kept coming over and be like, are you guys going to fucking order?
Yeah.
Is because there was 10 exchanges of messages, if that, of just going, hi, where are you from? Great, amazing. Oh, sweet. So I want to take you out. Sweet, tonight. Amazing. Done.
Yeah.
And then that's
It's also intentionality too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I agree, right? If you're going to cancel a date with somebody, it's not mean, but it's puts them on the spot.
Yeah.
But if you're an intentional person and you say, hey, listen, I've been talking to you for, an hour and you seem great. I'm just not my person. So I'd rather not meet you on the date.
I really wonder now what the wording is. Is it like not the right connection? Because that seems soft to me.
Yeah, that's nice.
Instead of like canceled.
Your date canceled on
Yeah. Not the right connection.
But I guess it's like, go back 20 years before dating apps or 25 years. And your friend was like, I'm going to hook you up with my friend. He wants to go out with you Friday night. He's like, okay, give me his number. And he's like, hey, I made reservations. And then you're talking to him and you're like, listen, like, I know we have plans Friday, but I don't really feel the vibe. I'd rather not go because I don't see it going anywhere.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me, like how I would love to see some of this data because I wonder how people have shifted their behaviors from other dating apps to this dating app. If they get so used to like Tinder, Hinge, whatever for the last like 8 years and hopefully they're not single for 8 years dating on these apps, but
maybe.
But I know many women that have been on apps for the last like 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And for them, they've been conditioned for a certain set of behaviors on these apps. And so this is so radically different. Then I wonder what their behaviors are.
Yeah, I think that you nailed it. So one of our internal talking points is that we're retraining the way people use dating apps.
Yeah.
And I literally say it's like, no, we're retraining the way people use
You're
dating apps.
retraining their brain, literally.
And it's hard for the user
This is a brain
too.
app.
It's hard to talk to users because it's kind of like, when fire was first introduced and, if caveman puts his hand on fire and it's like, well, I like the fire, but it's burning me. And it's like, well, the dating apps are there, you like them, but they're not helping you. And then it's like, okay, well, why don't you hold something over the fire? And it's like retraining how you're interacting with what you want. And I think it's working, but it's different. So it's taking time for people to really get used to it.
People are always adverse to change. They always are. That's just the reality. But then eventually they start cluing on.
But with this world currently that we live in, especially like currently in the United States, but I mean also like Europe and Asia, there's so much uncertainty in the world and like so much chaos in the world. And if you look into just basic human psychology and biology, we live in two states in life. We live in chaos or stability. And if you have a lot of stability in your life and it gets monotonous and robotic, you crave chaos. You want something fun, different, exciting. But if you live in chaos like we all do now, we crave stability. We want something solid. We want something that we can depend on. We don't want to live in constant like flux. So currently the world is in chaos. And I think this app kind of gives like a sense of like old school meet up. Like it kind of gives a sense of stability, which I think it will just do so well because when you have a lot of chaos, you want stability.
100%. Couldn't have said it by myself. And honestly, that's the most perfect way to be able to end this podcast. We could talk for hours and hours. And
I know.
I have a very strong feeling that this is not the end of the First Rounds on Me Dr. Tara collaboration.
No.
But we know where to find you, but could you let our audience know where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on my website, LuvBites.co. That's LuvBites.co.
Amazing. All across social media too. Our social media is fucking hilarious.
Thank you.
Joe, would you like to do an outro?
Yes, thank you guys for listening. Check out one of our past episodes. Please subscribe. It helps us go a long way. We got a lot of subscribers yesterday, so thank you.
Don't know what happened yesterday.
And we will check you next time. Happy dating. Thank you.